You got it. Yeah, you got it. Ready to start? All right, we'll call the public safety meeting to order. Affidavit of postings. This agenda was posted in the office of the county clerk on the 14th of July, 2021. Notice was sent to the West Bend Daily News, Express News, WIBD, WMBZ Radio, WTKM Radio, My Community Now, Hartford Times Press, Kewaskum Statesman, Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. Individuals with disability require special accommodations for attendance at the meeting should contact the county clerk at least 48 hours prior to the meeting. Roll call. I believe everybody is present and Supervisor Bossert's on Zoom. And then we stand for a moment of prayer and pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, and we have the consent agenda. Can we get a motion to approve the consent agenda? Second. Motion by Supervisor Markwart and seconded by Supervisor Milken. We have any questions on the consent agenda? All right, so approved. And then we have discussion items. Oh, we need to take a vote. I'm sorry. We vote on the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, so it's passed. Discussion items, coronavirus emergency supplement grant award for the sheriff's office.
Good morning, all. This is just really a discussion item. It is more of just an advisory to bring public safety up to date on one of the grants that we applied for. And I'm never in favor of just applying for a grant just for the sake of trying to get money. But so this is called the coronavirus emergency supplemental grant. And but in fairness to Washington County taxpayers, it was money that was available that if we didn't apply for it, it would go to some other municipality, agency, county. And so what we looked for is appropriate ways that we could spend this this grant money. That the grant is designed that it's supposed to be in addition to your normal budget items. But I'm going to have Captain Stacer kind of go through and explain the items that we were purchasing that in the long run are either going to end up saving the county money or B, expenses that we would have incurred eventually. So the timing was right for it. And like I said, in fairness to the taxpayers, I thought it was a good idea. So I could have Captain Stacer kind of come up and kind of explain what we all purchased.
Good morning. So this grant came available in April of this year. It's actually a fiscal year 2020 coronavirus grant, but the Department of Justice released it in April of this year. The grant provided funding specific to assisting in preventing, preparing, and responding to the coronavirus pandemic. And it was allocated to criminal justice operations at the county level. So those were the specifics of the grant. When the grant was released, it was a $150,000 grant. When the grant details were released, we had a command meeting with all the divisions present, try to come up with a list of items that would fit this and would be items that we needed, not just that we wanted. What we ended up coming up with was we will be purchasing 4 walkthrough style magnetometers. These are the magnetometers that we have like in the Justice Center over here when you go in, or in the jail. The gist with these ones is that they also have body temperature sensing capability. And so that was the nexus with the grant. So our current magnetometers are over 20 years old. We thought, hey, this would be a good time to update them, because now these ones have the heat sensing or the body sensing thing. It was a good nexus to get them. So these will be placed in the jail's front lobby, the Huber work release area, the entrance to the juvenile section. And then, like I said earlier, the one in the Justice Center will be replaced at the screening station. Cost for those items were about $33,100. The biggest ticket item on here is going to be laptop computers. As you know, we've got computers in our squad cars. We've got computers at our desk stations at the office. What we're trying to do is, we've got tablets in the squad car. They pretty much stay in the squad car. What we're trying to do is cut the number of devices in half for the deputies that we can do that to. So the computer that goes in the squad also now comes out and it serves as your desktop computer. So it's got a docking station in the squad. It also has a docking station at your desk. And then you've got your regular work setup. So we're cutting number of devices, hopefully in the future, then that'll help us with our replacement costs. But they also needed to be rugged enough where we could take them in and out of the office. So we purchased some Dell Latitude laptop computers. They're not cheap. The docking stations, and then the necessary VPN software that allows us to VPN to access the county servers and things. These will also allow for Zoom meetings and things like that. That's the nexus to COVID again, the ability to be able to work from home. So those 25 computers, the necessary VPN software, the docking stations in the squad, and in the office is $107,700. So that was $107,700. The other thing we came up with is some fast ID. Currently now, when we have subjects lawfully detained out in the field, you might have a traffic stop where you can't identify a person there. They don't have ID, or they're giving you what you believe is a false name. It's not coming back. Generally, what we'll do is we'll transport those people to jail. We'll have them, put them on our ID system in the jail, the APHIS system, and we'll be able to confirm who they are or who they're not. And so if they're not lying and it's all panning out, then we have to transport those subjects back to the location of the traffic stop. It takes time. We're also introducing people into the jail that maybe we don't have to have there. So we bought, or are going to be purchasing 2 fast ID. They're mobile ID devices that the person can lay their finger on out in the field, and you can plug into our laptop computers and it'll give us the same result as what we do back in the jail. These will also be available to any other municipality working on the road that needs a subject. We can have a sheriff supervisor swing by and use this as well. So we ordered 2 of those at $3,500. So this thing, the other uses that we've used these for too is like the ME's office. If we're trying to identify a decedent, we can take that out in the field and use that as well with deceased subjects. So 10 digital thermometers. These will be strategically located throughout the jail and available to correctional officers. They'll be able to check the temperature of inmates without having direct contact or to kind of hold up. You maybe seen them throughout the pandemic, entering into churches and stuff. Cost was fairly minor there, about $600. For our dispatch center, those folks are at their desks, 8.5 hours a day. They share keyboards and mice. We do our best to try to decontaminate that stuff, but as you know, with electronics, it's hard to wipe keyboards and things like that down. We have a very small pool of communication officers, so if a couple of them would get sick, it really puts a lot of strain on the rest of them. So we thought by getting individual keyboard and mice and assigning it to the actual communication officer, you'd make it a lot easier to decontaminate. They could take care of it themselves and theoretically not transmit any coronavirus or any other virus for that matter. So we will be purchasing 18 of those, and at a cost of about $540 for all 18 of them. The last item we got was a portable data network and portable amplifier. This equipment will give us the ability to set up a remote, secure cellular and data network in poor coverage areas of the county. This could be used in our mobile command unit. This could be used at a an office or a location. But it would be able to enhance our capabilities to be able to obtain data out in the field. And we thought, if this were to happen again and the health department needed to set up a vaccination site or a testing site, we could also take this stuff out there to whatever site they use and be able to amplify or, the data and use it in that way. So that device or devices that come with that was about $4,800. And so altogether, in some, you're looking at about $150,000 worth of expenditures there. So again, there's other things that we need. We needed AEDs, but there's no nexus to COVID. I had to come up with a nexus to COVID, and so this is what we came up with. And the window to do it was relatively short, so they didn't give us a long window to be able to think about this for months and months. So, any questions?
I'm on, okay. Captain, you answered my questions. You kind of explained a few things that I had questions about in terms of, that we weren't focused just on coronavirus, so you buy a bunch of junk that is useful for the next year or two. So I'd just like to say I appreciate the thought process of making purchases that are, more longer term and spending the money wisely. So thanks.
Questions? Thank you.
Okay.
Go ahead, Chris.
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So I think there's a strategic benefit to what we're doing here as well, especially with like the keyboards and mice with the communication center. If you think about any communicable disease, whether it's a flu bug, if the sharing of keyboards were to result in 3 or 4 communications officers all getting the flu at the same time, that would severely hamper our capabilities. So I think this is a smart investment and I support it. Thank you.
Anything else? All right, then we have action items, resolution, restructuring of supervision and investigation bureaus. And that's Sheriff Schulteis again.
So this was a discussion item at the June public safety meeting. And I know not all of the public safety members were present. So I have Lieutenant Kemps here that can certainly go over the reasoning for it. I'll give you a kind of a 30,000-foot overview of it. We had a detective lieutenant who retired at the end of April. And what we were looking at was, do we simply just go with the status quo and fill that slot and proceed as we normally have? Or do we look at maybe doing something different? And what the command staff kind of looked at was if we were to replace the lieutenant with 2 sergeants and more of a working sergeant, so they would be taking caseload plus doing some supervision, that we would A, increase the supervision in the Detective Bureau, and B, increase the capabilities of the Detective Bureau. So we thought it might be a good time to go over that. The reason why it was not an action item last month was that we did not have the fiscal impact of it. So I think the finance department, I think Margie came up with a figure of 100 and I don't have it in front of me, 114,000-ish in that neighborhood. Our county supervisor thinks that might be a little light. So in that neighborhood, what we were striving to do, what the county executive asked was if I could absorb that into the current budget without increasing the budget. We are certainly trying to do that, but I cannot make any guarantees to you. We don't have all of our fixed expenses back yet for all of our personnel costs. Just so you're aware, I had our communications supervisor look at our operating budget and tell me what percentage of our costs are personnel related for wages, benefits, insurance, uniform, just everything that was personnel related. And that came up to just shy of 91%. So that part of our budget is a huge part that I can't do a whole lot about. We're looking at areas that we can maybe cut some of the other costs, but I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to come up with $114,000 to be able to cut out of the budget to accomplish that. The budget target that we were given, I believe, was like a 2.4% increase over last year, which I'm grateful for. But when you have 91% of your budget for personnel costs, it's still a little hard to control. So I guess I'll leave it up to the vice chair if you want Lieutenant Kemps to come up and give an overview of the reasoning for the position, or if you're comfortable with last year's, last month's or.
If he's here, I think you should hear what he has to say.
Okay, all right, Lieutenant Kemps.
All right, good morning. As I said, my name is Tim Kemps and I'm a detective lieutenant. Currently, I oversee our General Detective Bureau. So to kind of go over the overview of our second floor at the Sheriff's Office, there's the general crimes, and then there's the multi-jurisdictional drug unit. The drug unit currently structured is overseen by a lieutenant. There's 2 detectives from our agency assigned to that division, 2 investigators from our agency. There's 2 West Bend Police Department investigators, 1 Germantown investigator, 1 Hartford Police Department investigator, and then 1 part-time Kewaskum investigator who is a summer when the schools are out. The General Bureau is supervised by me. There's 6 detectives from our agency in there, 1 investigator, and then 1 evidence custodian, kind of an evidence processor who actually is utilized for both units. And then he also oversees all of our evidence in the evidence, the room. So from kind of a case volume standpoint on the general side, as of last night through this year, we've had 104 cases that the General Bureau has investigated. 52 of those are open. We had 3 last night more, so up to 107 with 55 open. Last year, I took over in February of 2020. So from February through the end of the year, we handled a total of 144 cases, 22 of which are still open. So that's kind of our yearly caseload. So busy enough, certainly. So as the sheriff said, when we had this attrition, the spot opened up, kind of the drug unit model of how they've done things for the past 20 years is they're very much proactive. Their job is to build drug cases, get high-level drug dealers. The problem we're seeing is we've got obviously an opiate problem. Methamphetamine is becoming a problem, and we're having a significant amount of overdose deaths. And those overdose deaths fall on the General Bureau. But the drug unit personnel is really invaluable in those investigations for their knowledge, but also you can build high-level drug cases, out of those overdoses. So the mission started to change a little bit over the past year or so, where we start working together and bringing the drug unit personnel into those investigations, which was a change in mission. And no one likes change, and that started to. It's still 2 different units working on one mission, and that's kind of where when we look at efficiencies and where we might be able to better serve is one of the goals of this restructure. So to explain kind of why there is still a need for 2 different units is I kind of hit on it, but the drug unit, proactive, out there trying to build drug cases. General Bureau, very much reactive. We're getting case volume sent up to us, major investigations. So they're 2 very different, but yet very similar. And one of the problems we have, I kind of talked about it last month, but there's a physical wall in between the 2 units that's load bearing. They won't let me tear it down. So you have that wall, and you have the door, and the free flow of communication. It's very much kind of operating in silos, and that's our goal. Is we're trying to break that down, and really operate as one team doing 2 separate missions, but free flow of information. And I think that this would accomplish that by having one person overseeing both. The other thing, to really utilize both expertise is kind of as I hit on. Currently, some of the drug personnel gets assigned drugs, and they might be there for their entire career. Other detectives may be in the general side and be there their entire career. So I think really what one of our goals is to by having more crossover is really honing those skills and making, our personnel well-rounded, and then maintaining those skills because they're perishable. We just had one of our detectives go over to the drug unit who'd been on the general side. And we don't want to lose all the fire investigation and all the other training that we've put into him. We want to still utilize those skills and not just have him be solely drugs. So that's one of the goals as well. So kind of the benefits to the actual command structure change, as Sheriff said, opportunity came up with attrition. That kind of a good time to evaluate. Is there a more efficient, effective way to do what we're doing? I think with one lieutenant and then 2 sergeants, it'll be easier for the sheriff and the ops captain to direct their mission. Any of their desires, anything they want to see, there's one contact person that can then make sure that it's being delivered throughout both bureaus. It'll help facilitate the expansion of the drug unit's role into regular investigations, and also vice versa. I think the general bureau, we're seeing so much fraud with Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, the dark web. These things we're seeing them now on the fraud end. Well, they're coming on the drug end. This is how the drug dealers, the cartels are starting to use crypto. And it's going that direction. So some of the general skills are certainly valuable in a drug investigation as well, and can cross-work that way. And then I think finally, one of the things I did, one of my roles is kind of the liaison with the district attorney's office. So if the district attorney's office has something that they need following up on, they'll go through me, and then I'll feed that down. But what we do on the general bureau side is on major investigations, we'll get them on board right on the front end, let them know what we have, get their opinion from the beginning. And I find it's effective because you've got that buy-in right from the beginning. And when it comes to charging, they're already in the loop. We're on the same page, and it's highly effective for having good prosecutions. And just to bring that to the drug side too, having one person that can liaison for all major investigations, I think would be extremely effective in our efficiency on getting cases prosecuted. So it also allows for supervision to be spread out, either whether it be on a major incident that's more prolonged or just on a day-to-day basis. Having multiple supervisors, we can spread those hours out for better overall supervision. And what also allows for our patrol structure set up where there's a shift commander and 2 sergeants. The sergeants handle the day-to-day the day-to-day supervision, scheduling, things like that. Right now, the current structure, the detective lieutenant handles all that day-to-day stuff as well as the administrative stuff. And based on the workload, it can get taxing, and there's only so many hours in a day, so something you got to give from somewhere. So so I think our goal is to continue to maintain the Washington County Multi-Jurisdictional Drug Task Force as well as the Major Crimes General Bureau as separate units. However, the new focus is on having these 2 units operate in a highly cohesive manner with a priority on collaboration. This will be accomplished by a change of command structure that will continue to allow for direct and separate supervision of each unit by the new sergeant positions. But maintaining span of control. However, one commander will be tasked with overseeing both units to ensure that the agency goals, mission, vision are being met, and that collaboration is going on between the 2 units. I think how we're going to get through any resistance is by breaking down kind of those barriers, more direct communication, more open doors, more working together, and the results will be seen by our personnel that it's making their job easier and that we can be more effective. So any questions?
Thank you for your refresher. I spoke in favor of this in June already. I think the idea of restructuring management to better collaborate between these 2 teams is a good idea. And also, knowing that restructuring leadership in that way is often difficult, but we were given an opportunity here, and I wholeheartedly agree with taking advantage of that and making the units better. Thanks.
There's no other questions. We need a motion. Oh, I'm sorry. If there's no other questions, we need a motion. Okay, for Supervisor Gonery, seconded by Supervisor Markort. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, it's passed. Our next meeting will be Wednesday, August 18th, 2021 at 7:30 a.m. And we are adjourned.